You back. If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers and we're just about to get started. And I have with me in the studio Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce, the PDP chieftain. Many thanks for being with us on the show.
Good to be here.
And also joining us live from Ogun State, we have Professor Tella Sheriff Dean, a professor of economics. Many thanks for joining us at this time. Okay, all right, moving on to the topic of the day, which is fuel price hike and matters are rising. Just this past week, we got news from the NEC meeting that they've agreed on the way they are going to distribute money to about 12 million Nigerians, the poorest of the poor, as they've deemed it fit. Although the amount of money they are going to send is still not quite sure, because with the recent increase of petrol from about 500 naira to over 600 naira, the president called for a review on the palliative they'll be given to the people. But during the NEC meeting, they agreed that it's going to be via cash transfer. Well, from your own perspective, do you feel like that might be the best way to go about it?
Let me explain right away that the issue of palliatives is an insult on the mentality of the people. I'll tell you why. The dictionary meaning of palliatives is attempt to solve a problem without finding a cure. Look at the meaning. It means that it is just window dressing. Doesn't solve anything. That is the meaning of palliatives. Palliatives is what you get when you go to a meeting and they give you a pack, 500 naira pack of rice and stew and a bottle of water. That's palliatives. How is that going to feed the children when you get home? What about tomorrow? Look at this situation of palliatives. President has 500 billion naira for palliatives. So when you say you don't know how much they're going to give, it's not a problem. We know. Divide 500 billion by 200 million people. 2,500 naira. You see the problems. Now, if you say you are giving, let's say, giving the poorest of the poor. Who are the poorest of the poor? How do you know? This is a country where we don't have proper census. So you can be sure that in a state where the governor is APC, and the governor is going to control the palliatives, only a few people in the party will get the palliatives, and then it will not be enough. What is the meaning of 8,000 naira for a person? What does it mean?
Well, some people have argued that it is enough to buy perhaps a pint bucket of rice, beans,
yes,
and
yes,
some other staples.
but you will not eat tomorrow, right? You eat today and not tomorrow. Look, what the government has to do, this is an insult. You see, people have not really looked at it properly, but the average person will tell you this is nonsense. 8,000 naira will feed you for 1 or 2 days. What about the rest of the day? You must give people an opportunity to fish for themselves. Don't give them fish. It is a crime to treat people this way. It is like just a distraction. It's not going to solve anything. By the way, we don't need less subsidy. We don't need removal of subsidy in the oil industry. We need subsidy for health. We need subsidy in education. We need subsidy in transportation, as we need subsidy in the oil sector.
Okay, all right.
So
please,
it is not a question of
a
every country that is taking care of its people, that is about to develop or developing or develop, must have subsidized issues in various social areas of life.
Yes, but please, you were talking about how we do not really need removal of subsidy on the oil sector.
And we do not need palliatives. Palliatives, you know what the National Labour Congress said? Trade Union Congress, the same thing. Before you remove palliatives, you must increase salaries by 300%. That means the minimum wage should go to about 90,000 instead of 30,000 per month, minimum wage. And that 300% should go into every level of earning. That is the only way we can cope with the price of oil today. Therefore, it is not removing palliative that's going to solve the problem. It is reorganizing the economy, developing the system in such a way that the economy will grow. And if the economy grows and companies are able to pay more money, the government itself is able to pay salaries, high salaries, then if you're selling a liter of petrol for 1,000 naira and the minimum wage is 150,000 naira a month, we can cope. So everything must go together. You cannot say you remove petrol. By the way, it's only 50 million people that are going to benefit from the removal, the palliatives. No. Everybody has been affected. And by the way, when you say the poorest of the poor, let me tell you, in Nigeria, less than 15% of people make 100,000 naira a month. Less than 15%. So what is 15% of about 200 million? That is what you got to look at. And they don't tell me it's only people who are working. Those people who are working have to feed people who are not working. Therefore, we are looking at 200 million. You know? So 15% is the only group of people, maximum percentage, that make over 100,000 naira a month. Therefore, most of the people are poor. Usually when people say the masses, you get the feeling they're talking about the poorest of the poor. No, we are the masses. You and I are the masses. All of us are the masses. No. Only 10% or even less can be said to be comfortable with the prices that are prevalent in Nigeria today. And this question of removal of fuel petrol. Petrol is the engine of the country's economy. You know what is going on now, right? People are not driving their cars anymore. People are not going to work, right? Even the government has allowed them now to have 1 day off, 1 day on.
Or some states work
So,
2 times
exactly.
a week.
What does that mean for the economy? Depression, right? Productivity is going down. When you say 28% less usage of petrol in the last 50 days, 28%, that is 28% of the economy going down.
Okay, but let us look at
money.
it this way. What was stable to Nigerians is that we are trying to save as much money as possible. Nigeria has trillions of nairas in debt, and we have to settle this debt. And since subsidy is costing a lot, especially the one on petrol, because so now that they are trying to remove it to save costs, so to speak, and use the money for other productive things in the economy, do you not think that perhaps you might say that it is justifiable?
Look, on the surface it's justifiable, but it is kangaroo economics. I'll tell you why. Imagine now you say you're spending too much money on clothing in your family. You have to cut down on clothing. But when you cut down on clothing, how much do you have left? What you have left is still not enough to take care of your basic needs. Therefore, what Nigeria needs is not saving money. It is making money. You know, first you must make the money. In the short run, the government must collect revenues that have not been paid, FIRS, customs, NIMASA, all sorts of revenues that should be coming to the federal government that are being held by agencies that have not come to the federation account must be collected. This will give us $50 trillion in terms of collection. If you cut back on the waste and the corruption in the oil industry, NNPCL, you will get another $20 billion. This is where everybody in the world knows Nigeria is very rich, but our money is held in individual pockets. That is what is going on. That's what the government has to face. President Tinubu cannot solve this problem on the backs of the poor people. We don't have the money to pay the taxes. Before you can collect money, you have to be able to make money. If people are not employed, how are you going to get taxes? Now he has a new tax reform committee. They're not going to make anything. They say they want to raise tax GDP ratio to 18% in the next 3 years. Where are you going to get the taxes? Companies are leaving Nigeria in droves. Now with this increase, more companies will leave. If the companies are not there, they cannot employ. If they're there, they will retrench. If they retrench, people are not employed. If you are not employed, where are you going to get taxes? You are not going to get taxes from the companies because they're not there. They're not making a profit. You're not going to get taxes from the workers because they're not employed. So where are we going? First thing, in the short run, we must collect the monies we have in hand now. Before you say you are removing subsidy, you can afford it. This country, we can afford it because if you collect the money, look, the federal government built about 2,000 buildings. Ground rent for almost 15 years have not been collected. This is 6 trillion naira. You know, civil rights lawyer Falana brought out something recently. The figures are staggering. This is where I got most of this information. You know, trillions of dollars owed to Nigeria that we've not collected. If we cut back, just 10% cut back on the theft of oil in Nigeria, we'll have enough money to finance the developing economy. How is it going to finance this economy? So in the short run, collect what we have. Stop corruption. Stop wastage. Tackle inefficiency. In the long run, for us to be a vibrant economy, it is not by saving money. Which money are you saving when you don't have any money? We can't save any money. We don't have any money to save. Our money is only in these areas where you have to collect. That's where you can make money. In the long run, we must diversify the economy. We cannot continue to depend on oil, crude oil. We must diversify into bitumen. Ondo area has the 3rd largest deposit of bitumen in the world. Right now, we have a constitution, a bogus constitution, a fraudulent 1999 constitution that will not allow the states to use their natural resources to build their states. As you have in America, any federation, any country, any product of such. We have lithium in Kaduna State and Kwara State in abundance. Now they are using lithium to power electric cars, to power batteries all over the world. This is a major product. We have it in abundance in Nigeria. We have bauxite, we have copper. Let them go and tackle the uranium we have in the Bauchi area instead of allowing Boko Haram to use our uranium, to sell it to France and other countries. Let the federal government go there and tackle that, find out how much we can make millions of dollars every day on uranium alone. Instead of coming to tax us and say, you are removing subsidy, you are punishing everybody, and you are destroying your own economy.
Yeah, but let us look at that 1999 Constitution, the Mineral Act, that says that mineral resources, the federal government has to be in charge of them. That is the same problem we have with crude oil right now. But would you not say that the federal government being in charge of crude oil management, wherever crude oil is found in Nigeria, the federal government is in charge of it? Do you not think that having that much eye on it, being controlled by the top hierarchy, do you not feel like we are deriving advantages from it?
I know you're asking me this question because you have to, because you know the answer. When Buhari was minister, he was president and was minister for petroleum. What happened? Is it under his nose that he stole all the oil? Everybody is talking about the billions of the tons of oil that has been stolen every day. He's the minister, couldn't do anything about it. But I knew. When he was campaigning in 2015, I said on a TV show like this, I said, if this president becomes minister for oil, we're in trouble. When he was chairman of Petroleum Trust Fund, what did he do? They were stealing money under his nose. Even his own cattle ranch in in his state, in Katsina. They were stealing his cattle. So I knew that we were going to lose a lot of money on oil. Look, the government has no business in doing business, okay? Private sector handles it. Governor provides the enabling environment and the laws and regulations to guide against wastage and exploitation.
Okay, so would
the
you also
oil of the Niger
that
Delta belongs to the people of the Niger Delta. The uranium belongs to the people of the Northeast. The bitumen belongs to people of Western Nigeria, and so on and so forth. The gas that has in Southeast Nigeria, Enugu area has the 9th largest deposit of natural gas in the world. We have an administration, the one before, that was going to Morocco to bring in gas. This is criminal. Look, our problem is self-made, okay? What I'm telling you now, every economist knows. Everybody knows, if you want to be sincere, we have enough to become a major power, economic power in the world. We have the resources. Foreign countries have told us many times, but we don't have the leadership that has the vision and the commitment and the goodwill to do it.
Okay,
Tinubu is going on the wrong way now.
You mentioned earlier
We
that
expected
the
him to do
federal
better.
government should not be involved in doing business. So are you trying to say that if and when our refineries start working, would you advocate that it should be privatized rather than it being handled by the federal government?
Look, throughout the years, we have seen how the federal government has handled the oil industry.
But this is a new government. Should we not be expecting changes?
Government is government. Anywhere in the world, we are not the first country in the world to have an administration that is challenged. Look at what's going on anywhere in the world. You have to allow the private companies. By the way, if you discover oil in your backyard in America, that oil belongs to your family, belongs to you. But you are in a state. The state will regulate it, but you will become billionaires overnight. That is how you develop in a capitalist economy, not by government going to poke its nose in everything. They can do it. They failed in it. This one will fail if it attempts to do it. The only way is to allow the industries to handle it, provide an enabling environment for them to do their work, and all of us will benefit. That is how you employ. Problem in this country is that part of the reason why we have a weak economy is that government is the highest employer. What does government produce?
Okay, let's hold on to that thought. Tokunbo PS was talking about how the federal government is the largest employer of labor. Please go on, sir.
And that is a problem, because the federal government does not produce anything, and we are spending a high percentage, an unduly high percentage of our resources on recurrent expenditure instead of capital expenditure, because to pay so many people salaries, okay? Their job is limited. Administration mainly. Production of products, things that will bring in money in the country, is in the hands of the private sector. Therefore, you need to develop the private sector. By the way, when I was talking about diversifying the economy and giving the states the opportunity, the right, the power to control their mineral resources, instead of having to go and beg the federal government for support before they can bring in foreign investors and so on. This is why most Nigerians, most observers have said that the 1999 Constitution must be reviewed. You see, this is one of the reasons why, for me, I was supporting Atiku for president, because these are the things you need to do. If this president wants to survive and do well, he must go back to these things. You must go and challenge the 1999 Constitution. Look, there were people, so many leaders of thought in Nigeria, who even said before this next 2023 election that we shouldn't have this election under the 1999 Constitution.
Okay,
because
but do you
it
not
will
feel
always fail.
commendation is due to the Ninth Assembly because they did try their best to review and amend the 1999 Constitution?
No, this is where the president comes in. This is where the president comes in. If any president is going to improve the quality of life in Nigeria, if they're going to have a functional administration, they have to review that constitution. Because that constitution is creating havoc in Nigeria. It has strangulated our economy. It has weakened the states in such a way that they have become beggars. They go to Abuja every month, cap in hand, to take money. They are not allowed to use their resources to produce. Oh my God, this is, it's a military constitution. It was produced by Abdul Salam and his colleagues in order to prevent the states from seceding. This was a constitution that was put in place in fear of what happened with Biafra. Biafra is gone. Let us look for the future and let Nigeria grow. Let the country breathe. That constitution must be amended. If it is not, we are not going anywhere. By the way, it is not only the subsidy removal that is the problem of this administration now, so far. You notice that the increase in university school fees, high school fees, federal school fees, all of these things are strangulating education. And education is the foundation for growth in any society. Malaysia, India, South Korea, all of them that were at par with us or even below us in development in the 60s are now models of development. Nigeria has become the poverty capital of the world because of poor education. I'm an educationist and I'm telling you, we are going to talk about education from the ground up, from kindergarten to primary school, to secondary school to university. A lot of money has to be spent. That's the foundation for growth. You and I are here now. If we didn't have an education, we can't be here. All your guys here are controlling the equipment. They can't be here without proper training and education. Everywhere you go, how do you develop a country? Around this country now, right now, President Tinubu's policies are anti-education, destroying education. Now, people paying school fees for their children abroad. The price of paying school fees is doubled. Many of them are going to be returning. You're going to get calls from your own family members. They'll tell you, I'm bringing him back. I can't afford it anymore. Online payment for courses online. Same thing. No more bank rates. Because bank rate and black market rate is about the same now.
Yes.
Bank rate is 771. Black market is 800. And black market is going up and up. I thought that when Tinubu got in place, believe me, I was telling people that I know this man knows economics enough to be sure that black market is eradicated. This is what he said before he was coming. Now, black market is thriving. It is so much now. Though you cannot send your children to school abroad. Here too, the fees have gone up. You know that NANS is already revolting. They're having protests now.
Yes.
No, so we have a problem.
On education, some school of thought have opined that perhaps the reason Nigeria is in a lot of trouble is because our education is modeled after the colonial master's education. Well, it was not modeled in a way that is suitable to our environment, our culture, and our needs. Do you feel like perhaps instead of trying to perfect the education to the ones the colonial master gave us, would you not say that it's about time we start developing the one that is well suited to our culture, our tradition, and our land? Because when we are looking at even in something as basic as agriculture, despite the fact that little reference is made to the African soil, reference are being made to African soil, but the tilling of the soil, really cultivating the soil, everything, because back then, our forefathers usually rely on extinct tracking the position of the sun at a particular time. They know all these things, and agriculture then, with what some people might call primitive knowledge, was thriving better than we have today when we adopted the Western style. So do you not feel like this is the area that we need to address?
I understand what you're saying. In southern Nigeria, the south, where we have adopted Western education since colonial times, we understand the way it works. Our problem is we need to perfect it. You talk about agriculture. What do you think is sustaining the American economy? Agriculture. They're exporting rice all over the world, wheat all over the world. Now they're talking about Ukraine. What is sustaining the economy? Agriculture. Our problem is not Western or no Western. This is in the South. I will come to the North. In the South, our problem. During the days of our Chief Awolowo, Azikiwe, Ahmadu Bello, first generation of our leaders, education was thriving. We were competing everywhere in the world. Even in my own generation, in the early 80s, in the 80s, we were competing abroad, anywhere abroad. My first degree was accepted for me to get into a master's program at the University of Sheffield. I got to University of Sheffield, I came out with distinction in my master's degree, highest grade in the class. That is the education I got from Nigeria. My first degree was Bayero University now. It used to be Ahmadu Bello University in my time. I went to St. Gregory's College here and I was able to excel. Oh my God, our people can excel in Western education. We just need to do the right thing. We've been talking about focusing on agriculture. Do you need Western people to tell you that you need to focus on agriculture when you have so much land and it's so fertile? So you need to apply modern techniques to develop it the way they have done in developed countries. That's all. In the North, on the other hand, what you are saying is very, very relevant, very pungent. I've always argued that in the north of Nigeria, where since the beginning of colonial intervention, they've never really accepted Western education. They have Quranic education. We need to remodel, which is what Jonathan tried to do with Almajiri schools. We need to remodel education there, because now they have, like, 5 million children out of school. That's because they don't want to go to school. I went and lived in the north for a long time. It is not their culture. We have to remodel the way they have education in Jordan, right? In Saudi Arabia, in UAE, where they have Islamic culture. Let us borrow the model from there and apply it to where we have Islamic culture as we have in northern Nigeria. It's what we got to do, but you are right. There has to be a serious intervention in education, because without it, again, nothing will grow in the country. Nothing will develop. You have university graduates, you have a BS in engineering, and you don't know anything about engineering. You have a problem. You notice that when they go abroad now, they will relegate them to the background. That tells you we are not meeting. Our quality of education is very poor, and now with these policies, it's going to be even poorer. You know, we're going to have less graduates, and we are going to have poorer graduates, less qualified graduates. So we need to do something about these things.
So